My name is Julie Fei-Fan Balzer, and today I'm going to show you how to make some really cute felt and foam coasters. The first thing we're going to do is build our pattern. So we're going to go ahead and, believe it or not, we're actually going to go into the alphabet keys, and I'm going to choose my basic alphabet font here, and I'm going to choose the letter X in a capital. And I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, okay? Although, actually, I'm changing my mind halfway through. Is that okay? I'm actually going to make it just around an inch. I'm going to hit set. So there it is. There's my lovely X. You can see it up here in the corner. So now I'm going to go ahead into the editing functions here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I want there to be 2 of them. So thank you very much for giving me 2. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the outline of the mat to help me line these up together. So what I mean is I can't go any further. I've dragged it as far as I can, so I know it's perfectly aligned at the top and on the left. And now when I bring my second X in here, I'm going to be able to put him right next to the other guy, and I can zoom in and take a peek, because what I want is I want them to be overlapping but not too much, and it looks to me like they are. If they weren't, or if I wanted to nudge them, I can go into the arrow keys and I can nudge, and again I can use the zoom there to see what's happening. So once I'm happy, I'm going to go ahead and select all, hit OK, and I'm going to go to the weld function, and I'm going to weld them together. And if you want to zoom in and take a peek at that, you can see now my 2 X's have become this one sort of lattice pattern that we're starting to have there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and now they're welded together. Now I actually want mine to be 4 X's wide, so I'm going to make another one of these, and there you go. Now I have my 4, but again I've got to shove that one into the corner, push this one up against it, zoom in to see how the overlap is. If I like it, great. If I don't, I can use the keys, the little arrow keys, to get fussy, to get it to be less or more, whatever I want. And once that's good, I'm going to go ahead, select all, and we're going to, you guessed it, we're going to weld that. And I can zoom in to make sure that the weld is what I want. It looks great. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And now I'm ready, because now I actually want it to be 4 wide and 4 deep. So I go back into my editing function. We're actually going to we're going to make there be 2 of them. You can see how we're doing the same thing over and over and over again to slowly build our design. I've shoved this one right into the corner. This one is going to get lined up. And I just want to make sure that they're slightly overlapped. Again, I get to be the decider of how much or how little or whatever I want to do, and I can keep zooming in to check it to make sure that everything is exactly where I want it to be. Once I like it, I go ahead, I select all. They're united. I'm going to weld it. Oops, that's grouping, which I didn't mean to do. So guess what you can do? You can hit cancel. I want the weld, which is right next to it. There we go. There we go. We're going to weld it. I'm taking a peek. It looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now I want to have 4, so I need 1 more. That's another set of 2. And we're going to go ahead and just repeat this process over and over. Shove it into the corner, line the next one up. Go ahead with my arrow keys, take a little gander in the zoom to make sure everything is lined up the way that it should be. Once it is, I'm going to select all, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and choose weld, and I can zoom in again to check it out. I like the way it looks, and I'm going to hit OK. But wait, this is not a square. I wanted a square. Did you know that you can actually change it so that the aspect ratio is not locked? What does that mean? Well, right now, if I change the width, say, oh, by the way, it's in the corner, so it won't get any wider, but if you drag it out, it will. If I change the width, you can see that the height automatically changes. If you don't want it to, you can hit this arrow key here, and that's going to allow you to simply adjust one independent of the other, meaning release the aspect ratio. So I want it to be 4 inches wide, and I want it to be 4 inches high, and that's going to flatten out my X's a little bit and make this a nice square coaster for me to use. So there you go. There's my design. And after we've done all this work, I am certainly going to save that into my machine. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Oops, actually I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And I'm going to save it right into my machine. And the machine is going to tell me exactly what it's saved as. And now I'm ready to go get my material, load it in, and start cutting. So I'm going to go ahead and open the dust cover because we're going to load our felt on in so that I can scan it. So I'm going to go ahead and press the load button, and now I'm going to press the scan button and scan that in. Now I'm using a kind of felt that's very, very stiff, and if you'll notice, if I hold it simply on one side, it doesn't droop, it doesn't go anywhere, and it's just felt you can buy at any craft store that again has that stiffening, and I find that that works really well for coasters. So the other thing I want to point out is that I am working on a mat that has a fabric support sheet on there just because it's high enough grabbiness, if you want to call it something like that, gription, to hold on to this felt. So there you can see I've scanned it in, and I actually need to have 2 of these because we're going to cut 2 out of the felt. So I'm just going to grab it, and now I can make sure that these are placed perfectly. Okay, and now I am ready to cut, but the first thing we do before we cut is we need to look into our settings and adjust them. Now I happen to know, because I did a whole bunch of test cuts before we did this video, the settings that work. So for the felt, we're going to go ahead and set the pressure all the way up to 5, and I just do that right here, and the speed can stay at 3, and that's going to cut that stiff felt out just fine. So we're going to change out our standard cut blade for our deep cut blade, which is the purple one. And after doing a bunch of test cutting, I found that it worked best at a 7 for me, but you should do whatever works for you and do a couple of test cuts to make sure that your settings are correct. And then I'm ready to start my cutting. So we're going to go ahead and unload the mat and pull it out, and we can pull away the outside of the coaster here, and you'll see if you have this where it's a little bit still stuck in, don't worry, just work it out and it will pull away pretty easily from that background. So while I am doing that, because you don't need to sit here and watch me do that, let's go ahead and put the foam in that we're cutting. So I have, this is just regular craft foam loaded onto a mat, and I'm going to go ahead and put it into my machine. And again, this time I'm going to go back here because I only need one of these. So I'm just going to select one of them and delete it. And I'm going to go ahead and scan that in. So I'm going to go into the settings, and we're going to go ahead now and make the adjustments for foam. So I found when I did a whole bunch of test cuts that the speed was best as low as possible at 1, and that the pressure was best at 9. You should of course test the foam that you're using with your machine and your blade and not trust these settings, but use them rather as a reference point for maybe somewhere to start or an idea. And then I'm going to adjust my blade, and what I found works best is a 9 on there. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust that, put it right in, and then I'm going to choose cut, and I'm going to let the machine do its thing. So now we're going to go ahead and unload our mat, and let's pull this off. And again, if there's anywhere that's a little bit fussily attached, you just, yank it. And again, I'm going to take a few minutes. I'm going to pop out all of these, and I'll be right back with all of the pieces we need to put together our coaster. So I have my 2 pieces of felt and my 1 piece of foam, and all I'm going to do is apply your favorite wet adhesive, whatever that may be, layer the pieces together, another layer of wet adhesive, put it on top. It creates a little sandwich, and as you can see here from the finished coaster that I have, it looks really beautiful all together, and the felt is slightly absorbent to get any wet liquids. It keeps it nice and raised off of there. The foam does a little bit of insulating. Great little thing to give as gifts. You could even hang it on your tree as an ornament. Lots and lots of options here. I'm actually thinking I might make some bigger ones for placemats. For more tips, tricks, and ideas, visit my blog at balzerdesigns.typepad.com or check out the ScanNCut website at scanandcut.com.